Hello everyone, and welcome back to my YouTube channel. What I'd like to do in today's video is just take a closer look at the new Rottefella Xplore binding in the shop here. Now this new binding is not compatible with the previous generation of boots. This is a step-in binding, and instead of having a bar that runs across the bottom of the boot, this one has some pins. And these pins are spring-loaded. Doesn't take a lot of pressure to find it, and locks in just as easily as that. There's really a lot to like about this new binding. One of the things I really like about it is how easy it is to remove the boot from the ski. You just push your ski pole on here, you press it down, and the boot will come right out. It's also another really nice feature, and that is that this flexor is easy to remove in the field. On the side of the ski, you'll see there's a little detent button here. It's spring-loaded, and you can press this in with your finger. It might be a little hard to do if you're wearing gloves, but I found if you've got a scraper, you can essentially push that in like this, and then this flexor will pop right out. Here's the side profile of this flexor. It has a little kind of a hook here on the back, and then on the front. On the front there's a little tab. Here's this little detent. Okay, now we can easily see there's four screws up here and one here. So the binding is a 5-screw binding, which should make it fairly strong. This release lever is a fairly simple mechanism. All it does is it pushes in on the pins on the side of the toe of the boot and it allows you to remove it. Now, one of the things I've been curious about from a design perspective is what kind of materials that they've used. And I've got a magnet here, and let's see, this apparently is stainless, and this is some kind of a aluminum alloy of some sort here. Obviously the screws are steel. And what's quite curious is you can see that there's an insert here that the outside of the body is some sort of aluminum alloy, but they've put some kind of a steel insert in here for strength and durability. The boot itself doesn't appear to be magnetic at all, so this is probably stainless. So it looks like we've got some kind of a hardened steel insert here and stainless pins on the boot. And then interestingly enough, this bar back here is a different material than this here. So the heel riser is a chrome-plated piece of steel. Now, Alpina Sports provided me with 2 front plates. And on the left is this standard flexor, and on the right is a full pivot plate. And to insert the full pivot plate, it's pretty easy to do. You don't even need, you can just slip this in the front here and then press down on it. And I didn't even depress this pin. It's obviously spring-loaded. And when you press down on this, it's got a point, so it's going to depress that without having to press the pin, and locks it into place. For those of you who've never had a free pivot before, you may be wondering why this is important. It's just so much easier to climb up a steep slope with skins with this free pivot. I think this is going to be a handy option for those who are going to use this with a beefier ski system and are going to be climbing uphill for a couple hours. And where you're moving fairly slowly through deep snow, this just makes it a lot easier to break trail. And when you get on the top of the mountain and you want to change this out, you can just kick out, remove your skins, pop this out, and put in a stiff flexor for the downhill run. One of the other things that I like about this new binding is they do have a heel riser. And the purpose of that heel riser is to give your foot a little bit of lift on the uphill. Now most backcountry poles have a hook on it that you can reach back here and you can grab onto this riser and flip it up while you're still standing on your skis. Now this heel plate has been installed with essentially 2 screws. Coming in at 187 grams, which is 6.6 ounces. And while we're at it, let's go ahead and weigh these boots. These are size 45s, and they're coming in at 793 grams, which is almost 28 ounces. Now, based on what I'm seeing here off the template, it looks to me like if you have a set of skis, favorite skis, with the NBC binding on it, you'll be able to remount it with this new binding with just some minimal drill work. Obviously, this is a 4-hole binding. This is a 3-hole binding. You'll be able to reuse these 2 holes here because the balance point is exactly the same. You'll have to drill 2 new holes behind here. This hole back here may or may not match up. Not a big deal. And then, of course, on the heel plate, you've got a single screw versus 2 screws here. You may or may not be able to get that to work. And then, of course, you'll have one on the NBC. You've got 1 screw up here that you'll have to end up filling. Well, while I've got this binding off, we'll take a little closer look at it. The underside. A little interesting design. This portion is obviously an alloy of some sort. This is plastic. And the 2 are joined together. So the only part of this binding that is actually metal is from here forward. And the heel piece is all entirely plastic, with the exception of the screws and the heel riser. Spring is in full force at the lower elevations, but we still have skiable snow up high, so I plan to head out and put some more miles on this system. In the coming weeks, I'll be ready to discuss my thoughts on the feel of the new boot and binding combination. So until then, be safe and be kind, and I hope to see you out on the trail sometime.